What's up, everybody out there? Welcome to Hidden Apple Seeds. I am your host, Miguel Garcia. Today I have a very special guest. He is a power player when it comes down to branding, merchandising, just a no-nonsense guy when it comes to business. And he happens to be somebody that I'm really tight with. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mel Peralta.
What up, what up, what up?
New York City, the Big Apple, also known as the Concrete Jungle. When most people think of New York City, tall buildings, bright lights, and busy streets come to mind. Of course, you can see the obvious richness in those elements, but there's another side of the Big Apple, the side that many consider to be the jungle. The less commercially celebrated parts of New York City, where the true seeds of the Big Apple are hidden. These seeds not only carry a rich history and tradition, but when it comes to entrepreneurship, entertainment, creativity, and more, they continue to sprout into major players in today's society. These seeds that I'm describing are the people. Hello, my name is Miguel Garcia, a New York City native. My goal is to explore, find, and celebrate these hidden seeds inside the Big Apple's core. Take this journey with me.
What's up, my brother?
That's the first handshake I've given this entire coronavirus. I'm happy I'm giving that handshake to you.
That's because we brothers. All right, cool, man. Listen, we both come from humble beginnings.
Yeah, very, very humble.
Now, before I start asking the questions or whatnot, I just want to tell people what I know about you.
Go for it.
This guy here, well, I can understand why you're in a certain position today, because you've always been a daring person, man.
It sounds like a nice way of saying I was an asshole, but yeah, that's fine. I'll 100% own that right there.
All right, in the Latin language, atrevido.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was always that, man. And I'm like, man, like, you know what? It's either, I was concerned for a minute.
Me too.
Concerned.
I think a few of us are concerned, I feel like.
I'm like, you know what? He's either gonna go all the way left or he's gonna get it right. And you're sitting here today, man, and it's honestly, man, because you got it right.
Thank you, thank you.
You know, so salute to you, my brother.
No, thank you, man. I feel like we, you kind of, all of us came up in an era where, South Bronx, I'm not gonna spend like a ton of time on like, the hardships, but WIC and welfare and food stamps and free clothes in the church, and that was reality. But I think like the flip side of it was like that was a reality. The dudes that were just a few years older than us had European cars and had Swiss watches and had and these were the dudes that were showing us love, right? These were the dudes that were around us all the time or whatever. So to me it was like shit that they could do, I think, because. We all cut from the same cloth at the end of the day, Like we might not be cut from what does that whole says, cut from the cloth of the Kennedys, but we cut from the cloth of the Garcias and the Floreses and the Peraltas, So that shit gotta hold some weight, right?
Those some good last names you just dropped.
Yeah, those are our last names, of course.
And also, like, it segues into me asking you this question right here. Now, was that your first influence?
My first, so was like being around street dudes and like the way that we came up first influence. It was the there were a lot of influences, right? So I think growing up and not having English as my first language, right? I was born in the Bronx, but then I was raised in DR, and then I came back out here. And when I say raised, I mean like at 2 months. I was there till I was like 4 or 5, and then I came back.
I came back to the Bronx.
Yeah, Sesame Street taught me English. You know what I'm saying? Because like my parents didn't know it, my uncles didn't know it, my aunts didn't know it. You feel me? So we were all like trying to sharpen each other. You know what I'm saying? Just to figure out a way out of this world. You know what I'm saying? And then it was like the things that I credit the most were just kind of like seeing their drive at like, you know what I'm saying? Like, my dad, came to this country with a 3rd grade education and figured it out, right? Because he had to drop out of the 3rd grade in DR, which was common in the, 50s and 60s. Your oldest boy, like, what are you going to school for? You're going to quit that school shit and come over here and, work on a family business or do whatever. So I think that was a super big influence in terms of like work ethic and in terms of just figuring out problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, even to like this day, I feel like, like our crew, like, I don't even care for titles, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's like, can you figure shit out? If you can figure it out, I'm finding home for you here. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, because like, these fancy degrees and these awesome kind of, working for these big organizations with these no titles or whatever else, that doesn't teach me anything about you as a person necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, you gave me a lot right there, and I'm gonna tell you like what I got from that quickly. Sesame Street owes you a check.
Listen. They taught me English, so I'm gonna call it even a bit.
Listen, I'm still working on it. Like, I'm pretty good, but man, I'm not as articulate as you are. I want to drop some names, right?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you know what? Let me double back. Can you just actually tell the people where you're from exactly? Because we're from the same area.
We are. So, born and raised in the South Bronx, 137th Street of Brook Ave, the tenement buildings, 212 Sanders Avenue was the actual address. I actually just took my 14-year-old past the old building a couple weeks ago.
How was that feeling?
It was emotional for me. I don't know if it was, he was just like, oh, cool, this is where you from, Dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, because kids are kids, right? So it's like, to him, it was just like, oh, this is cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think being able to like kind of, it's not so much about the building, it's about what you remember on this corner, what you remember in front of the projects, what you remember in front of the tire shop, what you remember in front of Pamela C. Torres, which is where everybody went to for, Head Start, pre-K or whatever it is that it's called now, right? So like, I think it was more about like, remembering, people that are no longer here that were there on that corner when I was 16 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was, it was what it was. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think it's important to be able to kind of, show the next generation of, whether it's our kids or not, just the next generation. Period. It could be somebody else's kids, right? I think it's important to be able to show what that is because I think the struggle that we have as professionals now is that. Isn't the same type of struggle that other folks have that might be in the same space that we're in, right? What I mean by that is like, there's so many, brothers and sisters that are out there that are providing for the generation before them, providing for themselves, and providing for their kids that are coming up. You know what I'm saying? So like, a lot of times it's like, I might be somewhere I'm hearing about somebody hanging out at Kenny Bunkport or Hamptons or Martha's Vineyard or whatever other shit, and I'm over here like, man, I'm trying to read still at this age, at the ripe old age of 40, I'm trying to like still translate stuff from my parents before I could jump on a flight and go wherever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that in and of itself always keeps you hungry, always keeps you humble. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's important to be able to show that to the next generation that maybe didn't grow up in the same humble type of beginnings that we have.
I totally get that. At what point? All right, because like, as far as when it comes to age, like, I would consider you a subordinate age when it comes to me, right? Now, I would say this, right? Those of us who were slightly older than you, we thought you were crazy and a genius at the same time. We didn't know how to get you, man. We really did not know how to get you.
Right.
And I think for quite some time, you was trying to figure it out yourself.
Of course, yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out today.
Okay, I like that response right there.
You never stop trying to figure it out because there's new shit that arises, right? So I think like back then, you know what I mean? Because you don't see the whole blueprint, right? You don't see the whole game plan. You only kind of see what's in front of you and what's around you or whatever. So it was just kind of like, what does success mean? You know what I'm saying? I think at different ages, that shit means different things to people, right? So I think when you're young and broke, so success a lot of times means things, right? And it's like, I need a certain car, I need a certain watch, I need my crib to look like this, I need my chick to look like that, I need, you know what I'm saying? And then you realize that those things aren't success, that shit is just tools, right? Those things are just tools to open up another door to get somewhere else.
At what point did you get that?
After I spent too much money on nice shit, and then I was broke. After I spent the money on the nice shit.
Keep it at 1,000 right now.
Oh yeah, this is so real right here. You know what I'm saying? I've had nice cars and no gas money in the past. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, oh okay, cool. I'm getting compliments from some of the OGs. I'm getting compliments from whatever industry fucks or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just like, oh, this is nothing but something that just opened this whole other door for me. So let me not make the same mistakes that got me nice shit and kept me broke. Let me figure out how to keep progressing through these doors and just holding the doors open for the other people that are walking in the behind me, you know?
Listen, and I thank you for that advice, you know, like when you like going into like what the journey was like, okay? You know, but I can't help, you know, but to think about certain times and whatnot. Like, I don't think they get it. Maybe because you are like a no-nonsense business type of person, they may kind of see certain things in you, like, you know, if they have an eye for that. But this guy was a gangster. He was on some gangster shit. Listen, I'm not gonna sit, but if you care to share.
Listen, man.
You know, we got stories.
I was a lost youth. I was a lost youth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, you know, I think what ends up happening is it's like you're trying to figure out ways to create opportunities for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And what you see is like, yo, you see, you know, we grew up in a place. I'm saying, I just had a meeting with a massive organization 2 days ago, right? We were having a similar type of conversation, right? Where it was just like, yo, how crazy is it that we grew up off of the Cypress Avenue train line on the 6th train? I was off the Brook Avenue train line, right? I was one stop away. And like 15 minutes later, you're sitting in the lap of luxury on the Upper East Side. The same fucking train, right? Why is it that all the white folks got off on 86th Street growing up? And all the black and brown folks kept going north through Spanish Harlem and everything else, you know? So you start looking at that shit, and then you start looking at like systems of inequality, but you don't know that there's systems of inequality when you're young, you know, because you're just, you know, you're not opening the doors with keys, you're opening the doors by ramming your head through the shit sometimes, you know what I'm saying? You know, you're trying to kick the door open in some way, shape, or form. So I think like, you know, it's one of those things, man, where like, you know, has the drive gone anywhere? Fuck no, that shit is even sharper now, the vision's even sharper now. It's just, you know, I'm doing enough to not fucking go to prison.
I clearly see that the vision like is definitely sharpened up like a great deal. Like, was there a turning point, or did you just fuck up and just landed on some good shit?
Damn, I went through like a time where my closest friends were falling victim to shit, and I was aware enough to know that there was literally no difference between myself and those friends that were going through the crazy tribulations, you know. So like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, no, rest in peace to Lenny God. You feel what I'm saying? There was a brother that was a couple years younger than me, you know, and look at the way that he passed, and I was just like, shit, that could have been me. You're hanging out at a club, you're dancing with a shorty, and then, you feel what I'm saying? Like, you know, you look at that type of stuff. You look at our mentor, who's still our older brother to this day, and was the guy that, you know, I credit with teaching me so much shit about just business overall. You feel what I'm saying? You know, and it was like those learners that I had when I was 14, 15, 16 still carry with me through my 30s and now when I'm 40, because yo, guess what? The principles of business are the same, right? It doesn't matter what the product is, it's widgets and gadgets, it's sneakers, it's watches, it's cars, it's dope, it's cannabis, it's whatever that is, it's alcohol, it's people. You feel what I'm saying? Like what you're really like selling at the end of the day is aspirational hopes, right? That's what those things all represent. You know what I'm saying? Me trying to look really fly, even if I spend the last of my fucking weekly paycheck on this pair of shoes or this jacket or this hat or whatever that is, it's because I'm aspiring to be able to look like my favorite blank, fill in the blank. You know?
What would you say, Ryan? This is a basic question. What would you say is the dumbest shit you spent a lot of money on?
Oh man, that's a long list. I spent some money on dumb shit coming up, man. Cars and jewelry was a good one, right? Like that was a good one. You know, shit. Those were probably the big, you know, like again, it was stuff that I thought I needed, and then I figured out.
Validation?
Some of it, you know, this ego shit, right? I'm a fucking man, and you know what I mean? It's like, yo, I got a bag of mommy, so I need this car, I need this watch, I need this jacket, I need, you know, I'm also like 5'6" on a good day, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't blessed with the height and the basketball skills of this man right here. You feel me? No, but you know, real talk, it was just kind of like, you know, like looking for validation from your friends in every aspect of life. You feel what I'm saying? And that started from like, you know, yeah, being a little bit of a hothead and sometimes being wild, because you're looking for one type of validation, and then it's like, yo, here goes another comment. You know what I'm saying? You pull up, here goes another comment. You know, so it was all of that shit.
So when did it go from you dropping change, like on some dumb shit, to you actually saying, like, you know what, I'm gonna actually become the business?
That's a good fucking question. Once I started getting around older dudes mostly, right? Like once I started like really transitioning into like my early 20s into like really just seeking like, okay, cool, how are people from other backgrounds getting to where they're at, right? And it was almost like fucking taking like a sociology class on like, you know what I'm saying? You know, like hard work doesn't necessarily equal success, right? Right? Because if you can work really hard, but you're from this background, this other person works really hard, they're from this completely different background, but because they didn't start you're racing the same race, but you're not both starting at the same starting point. Right? So then you start looking at that shit and it's like, oh word, success isn't things, success is time, right? Success is opportunity, at least to me. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you know, being able to like, you know, fucking, you know, get on this call whenever I feel like it, being able to, you know, fucking, you know, just pick up with my family and bounce whenever I feel like it. Like to me, that's success. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't know that at an earlier age, you know? Like it's not about the trappings of products and things, it's really about just being able to move how the fuck you want to move. And that's the shit people don't tell you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and then real, so that's like one part of success. The other part of success is it's like being as selfless as possible with the fucking opportunities that you're creating. You know what I'm saying? Because like, yo, believe it or not, like, you know, being with you, being with, you know, with Padrino Al, which is what my kids call him now, you know, being with our big brother Al Flores, like being around you guys fostered opportunity for me by just letting me into the gym. Because I was far from the best ball player on any of those teams. You know what I'm saying?
The defense was incredible.
It was, man. I was like Pat Beverly before Pat Beverly.
Absolutely, man. What was the nickname? Let me see if you remember.
I'm not using that nickname at all. Shout out to Kenny Stacks. He gave me the worst nickname of all time. I fucking hate that name to this day. But it was like, you know, it was a thing where it was like, yo, like y'all opened the door for me to experience a whole other world, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so back to what you asked earlier about, like, you know, was that like one of your influences? Like, yeah, it was the neighborhood that we grew up in, it was the people that we were around, it was the people in my family, but yo, literally basketball was this thing that opened up things for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I was good enough to make a bunch of teams, and to this day I still have these long-lasting friendships, you know, that have helped me break into these different avenues and these different worlds, you know what I mean?
What you just did, like, especially speaking to those folks who may be in these neighborhoods now, like you gave them hope.
Yeah.
You know, like you actually took advantage of everything that we deem as negative, and you use that as weapons.
Yeah.
I'm saying to be a power player in what you're doing now. Now, when it comes down to, I'm just gonna throw a couple of names out there, a couple of, you know, American Solid.
Yeah.
All right. Flood Watchers.
Yep.
Timberland.
Yep.
And now Project Greenhouse.
Yep.
Okay.
And don't forget SSG.
SSG.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we touch on those, okay, because we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Alex Flores.
That was good.
Okay. When I mention Alex Flores, what does that mean to you?
He's you know, he was the, I think the best way to be able to describe him is kind of like you're lost and you see footprints that are guiding you somewhere. You feel what I'm saying? Like you're like just fucking out there, you're fucking alone, you're in the woods somewhere, and then out of nowhere you're like, holy shit, what the fuck am I trying to do right now? Where am I going? Where's this leading to? And then you kind of see footprints that are leading you to the answers that you're looking for. You feel what I'm saying? So like to me, that was, you know, and he's still a big brother to us, right? But it went from being like being like the OG, who by the way, when we look back at this shit, bro, I was 13 or 14 doing wild dumb shit. He was only in his 20s. So it wasn't like he was that much older, right? He was still figuring it out on his own as well. But the fact that he was able to like pull the curtain back, you know what I'm saying? And really be able to just kind of say like, yo, baby bro, these are the possibilities that are out there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I could, you know, both him and you know, you did that in your own way as well, June. I think like, to me, there's no way for me to ever be able to repay that debt. You know what I'm saying? But I will try, you know?
Listen, man, like, you know what, as far as I'm concerned, I think I can speak for myself and Fire, that's what we call Big Brother, Big Brother Alex Flores. I think you doing that just by doing what you're doing, man. It's like, man, we brag about you. I'm telling you, we brag about you. There's folks that I run into that know you, and when they know I know you, for some reason I get more proud. I'm like, hey, fuck, I'm a runner.
Turn that shit into a check guy. Run your budget.
I'm telling you, man. Now, American Untitled. I remember when you first brought that to my attention. What was that about?
That was like, I think I was spending time, like, I had some like really, so I went from like doing like whatever type of dumb shit when I was younger to like, just trying to like figure out how to get on the road, right? And right around that time was when I really started losing my friendships to different things, right? Some of them we lost to the fucking government, some of them were, government-sponsored vacations, so to speak, you know what I'm saying? Some of them we lost, in other ways, that are no longer here, and I was just like, fuck, I don't know how to necessarily do this, so I wanted to be able to launch my own version of kind of like an online, kind of like, website, magazine, that kind of spoke to the dual identity of being an American-born, immigrant, so to speak, you know what I'm saying? So that term, American Untitled, was always like looked down upon, because it was like, oh shit, whenever I would go back to the islands, they'd be like, yo, you're like mad American right now. You're like not one of us.
So they frown upon it.
Oh, 100%, you know what I mean? And it was just like, yo, fuck y'all, yeah, I am that, but fuck y'all anyway.
So that's how you responded to it?
100% yes, 100% yes. Like,
when did you segue out of that?
Oh, that shit failed tremendously. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the shit that I've done.
You want to hear about that too?
Oh yeah. No, listen, I came out of that with probably, I was working a dead-end job for the city, right around that time, and I was there maybe for like about a year, some shit like that. I was just trying to pay the bills, and I had a kid on the way. No, my kid wasn't on the way yet. Marcus was coming later, and I was just trying to like, just not be a thorn in my parents' side. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, I got arrested a couple times, but nothing crazy, right? But my parents started to deal with the shit, and they felt like they raised a failure. You know what I mean? And I was just like, nah, it's just I can't do what you guys want me to do, and I can't do what you guys are doing. You know what I'm saying? To this day, my parents don't understand what I do for a living. Let's be clear. Like, they don't even know, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I paid for their vacation, a decade ago or something like that, my mother pulled me to the side and was like, yo, what are you doing right now? You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, yeah, Mom's cool. Like, I got employees and I got pay stubs and I got LLCs and shit. Shit is real, you know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those kind of things, but it was also kind of like, man, like shit, why not try it? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, I'm already fucked up, what I got to lose? You know what I mean? Let me not be fucked up working for somebody else. Let me fail on my own terms, you know what I mean? But if I win, shit, y'all gonna regret it, because man, listen, all of us are coming,
I tell you this, and here's the next thing. I noticed when things first started bubbling, all right? Now, what does the name Doug and Naeem mean to you?
Those are, man, listen, I feel like, you and I are my brothers for life, right? You guys are friends that I've known for the longest, right? I feel like they were my other friends that came at a different point in my life, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, I'm a Dominican spiritual, but not really church-going kid from the Bronx. Here goes a Muslim banker from Harlem, and then, a Jewish DJ from Queens.
That's funny. That's funny.
What's up?
The Jewish DJ and the banker from Harlem.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Flip the shit on his head.
I want to get down with them too.
The shit was like, you know what I'm saying? Met them, and how did I meet them? I met them through a dude that I met playing basketball, Cesar Viscarando.
Y'all remember Cesar?
Yeah.
AG.
Yeah, Cesar, AG, Ted, the rest of that crew, you know what I'm saying? I'm still tight with to this day. And it was like shit, again, this was basketball opening up doors, you know what I'm saying? Not because I was fucking good at anything, but just by virtue of being able to play the sport, you know what I'm saying?
Now, as far as getting back to Doug and Naeem, if you just please tell the folks, what business you guys had together.
Yeah, so in 07, we teamed up and we had this business called Flood Watches, right? FLUD Watches. And to their credit, they started it in 06 right before me, and I joined them till it was the end of 07, and then the three of us became partners, And we had a couple other partners that came and went, but it was generally that crew for the first X amount of years, and then it was just me, Doug, myself, and maybe some other financiers that we had right before we finally sold and exited that business.
Okay, prior to you starting selling? Like, what was the marketing strategy behind it? Because they was all over the place. I seen like every DJ with a Flutter Watch.
So I mean, really like, the name, I want to say it was Naeem that came up with like a Scandinavian way of spelling it, right? So it was FLU with the umlauts, those two dots, and D, but really the kind of the ethos behind it was like, yo, we want to flood the streets. And what does that remind you of? You feel what I'm saying? It reminds us of, the young entrepreneurs that were around us when we were growing up in the Bronx, right? Some of the things. So, Naeem came up in East Harlem, all throughout, Doug throughout all his shit out in Queens. And it was like, kids that kind of grew up in the 90s, you kind of had a certain outlook on shit, right? And to me, the only two things that you ever need in the world are, music, water, and maybe some chicken. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, music moves, right? So I think to me, if you were in the music game, nightlife, DJing, whatever it is, you were already looking at or setting trends. Because everything started in the nightlife, right? Like everything, So Doug being a DJ and Naeem being in the world that he was in, you feel what I'm saying? That me with my background, it was just kind of like Voltron kind of forming together, to be able to kind of, have this brand. And for us, we were barely making money the first couple of years, but we had a lot of product, and we just made sure that every dope-ass DJ, and it started off first in the 5 boroughs, and then it was really all over the country, and then beyond that, we're just repping and rocking the product all the time,
See, let me tell you that when you started repping that there, that's when I knew you was on to something. I was like, okay, I'm not as concerned. Like, he's on to something. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. Now, did Timberland come right after that?
No, so so one thing that we did was we were buzzing, right? So we were we were getting press all the time. Celebrities were wearing us, Brown wore us early, like Ricky Year, D Wade, I remember Lamar Odom was on Perez Hilton. Remember that old gossip website? And they caught Lamar doing some shit he shouldn't have been doing, but the thing that you saw was him with one of our watches on, right? Kanye showed us love on his blog many years ago. So we started building that buzz, and we started getting these big kind of corporate organizations that started kind of like showing us love, right? And they were like, oh, what's up with this brand? They look like they're just as big as G-Shock. You weren't as big as G-Shock. You're fucking tiny. G-Shock is owned by Sony. You know what I mean?
But you put it out there, perception-wise.
Oh, but I know how to make $5 look like $150 easy. You know what I'm saying? So imagine what I could do with $1 million. Right? That was really what the pitch was to all of these corporate entities, right?
You pretty much just laid out your job description, right?
I don't even know what it is, I'll tell you the truth. You know what I'm saying?
You know how to make $5 into $150. That's what you do.
Listen, shout out to Father Al, he helped with that, you know what I'm saying? He helped with that, you helped with that, So it turned into this moment of we had the NBA knocking on our door, we had Nickelodeon knocking on our door, we had, yeah, for sure. So we had all of these different kind of corporate groups, Disney, everybody was like, yo, we want to, this was before collaborations with Masters, so this is 2008, 2009, 2010. And it was yo, we want to be able to work with the, so we flipped it and we ended up starting a licensing business, right? So that now everything isn't owned in this one entity. We're like, yo, let's just have a whole separate other entity that's housing all of these different collaborations. And then we started licensing these things. And right around the time that we were about to sell the business and we were exiting, we started kind of doing like a round table, kind of not a round table. We started kind of holding these meetings with all these different groups of listen, we're selling, these guys running the shit, so deal with them, whatever it is, this and third. And our homies at Viacom and Nickelodeon came to us and were like, yo, look, you guys are able to do some really dope work with press and PR and marketing with this brand. Can you guys come and help us over here? And literally the conversation was, they wanted to spend $1 million on a fashion show, And I remember being
how did that pan out?
So I remember being in a meeting, and we're there, the president is there, and, Eric, all these, high-ranking people are there. I showed up in, fucking sweatpants and, a hoodie or some shit. I still dress like that to this fucking day, right? And, I remember just, all of us just kind of showed up or whatever, and they were like, yeah, can you help us put this event together for, $1 million? And I was like, yeah, we can, but I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I'm gonna put that event together, and I'm gonna walk away with, $975,000 in my pocket. So I think it's a bad use of your guys' money if you guys just spend $1 million on this one thing.
And you was honest about it.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Would they appreciate that honesty?
Yeah, I mean, my business partners are looking at me like I was fucking wild for saying that.
You do that.
100%, for sure, but I'm also just kind of like, like to me, anybody can get a quick buck, but how do you build a sustainable business? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you can't think about what's going to happen over the next 12 months. Fuck that. That's easy to think. You figure that out in a week. You know what I mean? Tell me what's going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years. You know?
Are you still in business with that corporation? With the Viacom brand? Okay.
Yeah. We're in business with a bunch of brands. So, so we still own SSG, called Stadium Status Group. It's Doug and myself. We have a team that works for us. We have employees and whatnot over there. Doug does more of the day-to-day now that I'm doing all the greenhouse stuff. But really we kind of spoke to the folks over at Viacom, and we were just like, yo, look, instead of spending that mil, why don't you give us like 1.5 or 1.9, I forget what the number is right now, to give y'all 18 months worth of projects and really give you the bang for your buck. And here we are now, close to a decade later, and they're still one of our top 5 clients,
SSG after Timberland?
No, SSG came like right around the time that we're getting rid of Flood, and I've been able to do SSG through Timberland and through Greenhouse.
Oh, okay.
I'm not giving up my IP, I'm not giving up my ownership, you know what I'm saying? Corporate America, if you want me to do that, you better fucking pay for it.
Oh, man, for sure.
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as Project
Greenhouse. Yep.
Project Greenhouse, excuse me. Can you please break that down to the folks out there?
For sure. So Greenhouse is, Project Greenhouse is, Foot Inc. So Foot Locker Inc., which owns, Foot Locker, Champs, Foot Action, and other entities around the world, is our incubator to be able to keep up with kind of like the speedy youth culture in different ways, right? So like anything, there's like a bell curve, right? And you're always gonna have your early adopters that are always on this side of the bell curve, but the meat of the business is in the big part of the bell curve, right? So for us at Foot Locker, it wasn't I that came up with the idea, right? Foot Locker, Jeff Berger, our CMO, came up with this idea along with Vlad Estemer and Andy Gray, and just an amazing group of executives that we have. And they were like, look, we almost need to build a separate unit that's going to be able to kind of get us closer to youth culture in a different way at that speed of youth culture.
How were they able to usurp you?
So a really good friend, 2 really good friends of mine, Jason Brown and Richie Cruz, that were execs over at Pepsi, had just finished joining Foot Locker, and when they were talking about this greenhouse thing, there were a couple other candidates that were out there, and those guys who were definitely also really close friends of mine. They were like, yo, we think we have the perfect person for you, a young entrepreneur by the name of Mel Peralta. What do you guys should speak to him. I had no idea I was even being interviewed. You know what I mean? I showed up with like a fucking gold watch and a black hoodie that had like crazy bedazzled shit on the back.
So this was a conversation that was on the fly.
It was, my boys were like, yo, you should come in and speak to my people, right? Speak to our execs. And I was like, sure, your friends are my friends. I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna shoot the shit. And they presented kind of like what Greenhouse was, and I was like, oh, I agree with this, I don't like this, I don't like this, maybe we should change that, this is fucking dope, keep it that way. And, a couple weeks later, I had an offer.
That's crazy.
It was the same with Timberland. It was the same with Timberland.
So did you have to think about it, or you accepted right on the spot?
I had to think about it. Because the Timberland situation was some really amazing people there, but it was such a process-heavy thing, and I hadn't worked for anybody, June, since my early fucking 20s. You know what I'm saying?
That kind of probably felt a little.
Yeah.
Way about that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're used to running your plays your way. You know what I'm saying? And and that's not about ego, being a man, or anything else. It's more like, yo, if this shit goes wrong, I'm fully comfortable with taking all the blame that goes with it. You know what I'm saying? And when you join another team or an organization or whatever else, that it might not be that way, but when I left, I kid you not, right when I was leaving Timberland was when the Foot Locker situation, the greenhouse situation kind of came about. I was leaving and I was like, man, I'm never fucking working for anybody ever again. You know what I'm saying? Not because
what made you say yes to this? Because it spoke more towards what you were doing?
It was 100%, right? So I think the Timberland thing was fun, but it was purely like a marketing kind of play, right? It wasn't really entrepreneurial, which is what my whole background has been since as long as we know each other, you know what I'm saying? I've always just, really tried to start businesses. Greenhouse is completely entrepreneurial, but with a really dope twist, we have the backing of an $8 billion organization. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's less process heavy and way more creative than almost any kind of corporate gig that you could kind of think about out there. So it's the type of man, it's the best of both worlds.
So now, like they say, if someone is, they have a brand that they're working on.
Yep.
Like how would they be able to get in contact with someone like you, someone under you? Like how does this work?
Like, just hit me up. Like, fucking cell phone, email, like whatever, you know what I'm saying? If you know June, get my info from this guy.
Because I know you're not giving away yourself.
I give it out still to this day. Listen, when we have flood, bro, I might not answer right away because now I got 2 kids and I'm fucking old, but I promise to always get back. When we have flood on our customer website, and even with SSG for a while, same thing with the website there. It was my phone number, Doug's phone numbers that were on there. So we used to get calls from all over the fucking world. You know what I'm saying? Like in the early days, and it used to piss off. Like I'd be on a date, and it would piss people off, or I'd be out in the world, or I'd be at a club, and it would be like legit a customer calling saying, "Hey man, when is this one dropping?" And yo, I got a problem with the strap on this watch. Yo, you got these in other colors? And I wouldn't even brush it off. Doug wouldn't brush it off. I ain't wouldn't brush it off. That was, you service your customer, right? Without your base, without your core following, you're nothing. So you can't ever be too fly for the folks that you're trying to service, you know what I'm saying? If anything, you gotta see it as you're in service of them, not the other way around,
Listen, like, you know what? With me, as being who I am to you, I actually love, the journey, and where you're at today. Because think about it, you're talking about picking up calls and you're like in China or Japan or something like that, versus the humble beginnings. How you got to kind of be on some gangster shit at first, right?
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't have panned out too well. So like you can't beat that with a baseball bat.
100%, man. I'm grateful to the Most High every single day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what? And you actually like give so much hope. For those that's gonna watch this right here, you give us so much hope. To those who may have that same mindset that you had back then, like knowing that you got something, knowing that you want something, but not knowing what to do at that time. So this is some good stuff to follow.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Joe.
My brother, I thank you. Because this is what the show is about. This is what Hidden Apple Seeds is about. Okay? Like these are the gems that New York has that you may not know, but a lot of folks that's in the know, we know.
Look, I think at the end of the day, man, if there's one thing that I could ever say to folks is, it's like, when you're young, everybody wants to be Mike or Braun or Kobe or whatever else, right? But think about the business behind that. You know what I'm saying? And I think, one of the things that I find amazing all the time is when I see like Braun and Mav Carter, right? And you see Rich Paul, and you see that whole crew, you see, Paul Rivera, who's a homie, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but you also see this level of like everybody kind of growing into these different worlds, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, if you guys are out there and you're trying to figure it out the right way, you might not be 6'8", have a crazy handle and be able to dunk on everybody like one guy in one generation ever could, and Braun. But guess what? That Rich Paul story, man, that's a beautiful story, right? That Mav Carter story, that Paul Rivera story. These are all beautiful stories that are close to being like realized by kids that are out here watching this, by kids that are out there in the street, by kids that are, in those same blocks that we're from,
It's good, man, because everybody, they landed and they found, their expertise.
Yeah. They figured it out.
They figured it out, my brother. Thank you, man.
You got it, my brother.
Thank you. Thank y'all for joining us on another dope-ass episode of Hidden Apple Seeds. Appreciate you. Salute. Take care.
Yes. What's going on, good people? My name is Mel Peralta, and this is Hidden Apple Seeds. Thank you.